I just got kicked out of an event by a really rude old white guy.
Wait, why did you? Okay, not to say that there's a reason, but
Oh, there's a reason.
why did he decide to kick you out?
He didn't like how much cocaine I was selling. I'm joking. Uh, Honestly, do you want to start the podcast?
Yeah, let's just start, or else we're gonna be talking for 3 hours and then you're gonna go, okay.
Hello, and welcome to the Secret to Life podcast. My name is Eden Aslan. I'm here with my beloved friend, Sarah Brandenburg, whose middle name I just learned thanks to Zoom. This is going to be like this podcast has two Edens today. Every time me and Sarah talk, it's literally quoting the same philosophers for 5 hours straight. We try to send each other like voice messages so that we don't like call and take up all our time. But then we just spend these voice messages are like 9 minutes long each. We're always sending them back and forth. We met. This is Sarah did not go to UC Irvine at the same time I did. Sarah did, of course, still go to UC Irvine, as
I know it makes
did
it sound
everyone in
like
my
that I
life,
know.
it seems. Sarah was seeing the often referenced incredible New Swan Shakespeare Festival's production of Measure for Measure, directed by my mom, Beth Lopes. She's not my mom. That Sarah made a
Oh,
face.
okay.
Sarah, what was that night like from your perspective?
When I met you, well, I felt like we had like we met and we were like, wait, like have we known each other? At least
Literally, I felt that way too.
I felt like I don't know, like oh my God. Not that you're me because we're definitely different people, but I also feel very kindred with you, where it just seems
Same.
like you get me and I don't have to be like explain it and you're like, huh? Like I don't know, like it makes sense and it feels comfortable.
I
But yeah,
remember when you were like, what's your Instagram? We shared each other's Instagrams, and I was like, oh my God, your last name is Brandenburg, like the gate. And you went, you know what that is? And I was like, who doesn't?
who doesn't? The only people who know what the Brandenburg Gate is, and I'm sorry whoever is listening if I'm offending, maybe this isn't true, but from my experience, the only people who know who the what the Brandenburg who the what the Brandenburg Gate is, Europeans and musicians. Maybe also people who are just I don't want to say Americans aren't educated and but I mean
I'll say it.
I don't know why no Americans, majority of Americans don't know what the Brandenburg Gate is. And then I'm like, do you know history? Have you seen the pictures? And then they see it and they're like, it kind of looks familiar. And I'm like, it's my fucking gate.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll say something selfish.
Okay.
So I am not having the best day. Still a day, but not the best day. And I am traveling for the first time. I feel like this, when a kid is like so excited, I'm traveling for the first time for my work. Like I get to travel for work. I get to
Oh,
go on an
that's so
airplane
cool.
and I leave tomorrow morning. Okay. And so I was like, I realized when I booked to do the podcast, I was like, whenever I talk with Eden, like I know I'm gonna feel a little better. Like I'm gonna so
Oh, I love you. Oh, that's so
I'm
nice.
gonna cry.
Oh my God.
But I was like, so I'm gonna do it for selfish reasons because I need to talk to Eden.
Well, tell me about your day,
No,
Brandenburg.
I want to hear why you got kicked out first.
Okay, so the answer of why I got kicked out is because I didn't have a badge. But the answer of
Oh.
why actually goes deeper because I was in a room where you didn't need a badge. I was watching the event with a bunch of other badgeless losers like me. It was my first Smash Bros. Major ever, and the first Smash tournament. Super Smash Brothers is a video game for the Nintendo GameCube from 2001, the year I was born. That's had a competitive fighting scene for as long as I've been alive, literally. My most recent Smash local before this was in 2008 when I was 7 years old. And Sarah was canonically that age too. And definitely not like, wait, were you like 15?
Wait, what year?
How old were you in 2001?
I was, okay, that I should be able to calculate. I was, I think I was 7, almost 8.
So you were alive in 2001.
Fuck yeah, of course.
Why didn't you stop 9/11? You you were there. You could have done something.
Oh my God, Eden.
And happy late birthday once again, by the way.
Which you didn't come to.
Ah, I was home. Wait, no, I think I got into a car crash the day of your birthday party, if I'm
Wait,
not wrong.
on my birthday? Wait,
Yeah,
what
I think
day?
I think it was on the invite day. I think if I went to your birthday, I wouldn't have gotten into that car crash. So I should
No,
have
you
gone.
what, like drove in from from your home to
Yeah, I should have just flown. What else was I doing? I was just getting in a car crash. I should have come by.
Wait, was it really on my birthday?
I think so. I
I
think
don't
because
think so.
I remember that day seeing your birthday post and being like, I need to wish you happy birthday. And then I got in a car crash. And then 5 days later, I was like, hey, Sarah, so it's
Oh,
really late, but happy birthday.
oh my God. It's so traumatic, your car accident.
Dude, isn't it crazy what a world we live? So I guess that's the main thing I wanted to talk to you about that in like this podcast is because as we said before, you're like a bit older than me. And I want to know like do you ever like learn anything in life or do you just experience things and then
Okay.
die?
I definitely I've learned things. And it's so weird because if I went back like exactly a year ago, I was living in such a weird thing. Like I thought my life was literally like nowhere. I felt like I was in a dark cave. I didn't know like I thought like I was a failure. I didn't even know. I was like, why did you like even art, Sarah? I don't think you're an artist. I don't know what the fuck like everything, right? And the only thing that I can think of that's kind of funny that I changed, I remember thinking in my head, I was like, I just want to know like why I'm here. Like
Mm.
I just want to understand the world and just existence. And then I started writing and I forced myself to write every single day. I always tell people, I probably told you this story of how I was so pissed of like some days I write when I'm inspired and some days I don't. I was like, this is like eternal delay because I keep saying the next day, the next day I'm going to do it, the next day I'm going to do it. And I have all these stuff that I'm not doing. And I wrote and I said, if I knew that if I didn't write tonight, that I would never write, would I still not write tonight? And then I wrote, and then I wrote the next day, and I wrote the next day. And even days where I felt like I didn't want to write right before bed, I would just write a sentence and I would be like, you fucking suck, Sarah, like whatever.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
forced myself to do it. And because I went through that, I then at the end of it, that's when I like started writing my novel. And then that's when I was able to just write freely. And it's kind of funny because I started my novel, I think in May. No, before, I think it was before May. No, yeah, it was before May because it was before, because I was living in Chicago. Then I broke up with my boyfriend. Then I moved back here. And if I think about it, it was almost like that me writing, that's when my life shifted. You know what I
Yes, you wrote your own
mean?
life.
I feel like because now my life is in so much of a different place where I just feel like through my novel, I became friends with myself, literally. And
Dude,
okay, let's
oh
just
my
put this. Eden just put like model lights on herself, by the
I did.
way.
I did. Okay. So
While I'm telling this, like Eden's like,
Sarah has really nice lighting, and I was like, "Oh
"No,
well, it'd be rude if I didn't," because I've just had this like these like. Wait, Sarah, you can see this. No, my phone. These like weird yellow lights that kind of make me look a bit like weird. So I was like, "Well, it'd be rude if I didn't also have nice lights,
I
so
have
to show her how
terrible
much I
lighting. What the
cared
fuck are
about
you
this."
talking about? This is like, I have terrible lighting. You're just trying to, you have great lighting now.
This is gonna be the best podcast ever. I love this, dude. This is awesome.
But just remember, people,
Yes.
that having like being satisfied in life, or like for me, I was just like, I'm just happy to be alive and to be free. And then all this stuff started falling into place, and I just felt grateful. But just remember that even like it's not about false or like hyper positivity where it's like everything's great. I feel like truly living is just about accepting all the bounds of emotion and not being like everything has to be great. Like even when you're feeling sadness and pain, that you actually feel it and you're in it and you're not trying to avoid it. And then you can also feel satisfied in that, if that makes sense, where you don't have
So
to feel
saying
anxious
so
about
just
it.
accepting life, saying that like everything that is just like is.
And it can be beautiful, like a story isn't fun if it's just flat. That's what I tell myself whenever bad shit happens to me. I'm like,
I
wow,
do the
this is a
exact
great,
same fucking thing.
this is a great story. But it is really because it's challenge and conflict. And that's why today, when I'm like not having the best day, I'm trying not to be like, oh, what was me? I'm trying to be like, look, just it's okay to feel this way.
What like what got you into writing? What is your need to express yourself through writing come from?
It's just too, I will implode if I don't do it.
I also feel like during the pandemic and at multiple stages of my life, I've woken up and be like, wait a minute, I've not been myself for like 2 years plus, or like even just like a few months. What the fuck? And then like there's been this search in me where it's like, oh my gosh, I want to find out who I was. But I'm never able to find out who I was. I always become something like new. Is that the same for you? What was it like realizing you lost yourself? And have you experienced that before or since?
Yeah, so I saw a quote because we always
Oh,
do quote.
dude, this is why you're my favorite person in the entire fucking world. I if I just read like it could be anything. If there's the quotation marks around it, I'm nutting. I'm fucking there for it. I'm like, yes, so fucking true. I'm
I
such a simp
feel
for things someone else had said.
I'm someone who thinks very, very, I mean, feels very, very deeply, right? So when I went through this period, it was after I went through this panic during COVID, and there's a lot of different reasons where, where that happened. But in order to get over it, because it was a long where I felt like I couldn't breathe and it was like a long-term thing, I had to numb myself. And because if I felt anything too much, whether good or bad, I felt like I would just like it would happen again. But then guess what this quote is in this first time? It's Sylvia Plath. She says, I don't know what it is like to not have deep emotions. Even when I feel nothing, I feel it completely. And I was like, oh shit, that
God,
was
oh
me.
my God.
So even when I'm feeling nothing, which is me, I was like completely nothing, right? Like it's to the extreme. So then I was like, oh, I relate to that. Terrible time in my life. I don't feel like that's interesting where you said like changing, like you feel like you kind of shift. I feel like I feel like the same person since I was like a kid.
I feel the same way.
Okay, so you do. So you don't feel like you're
Yeah.
changing.
I feel no, I feel like if anything, I've wanted to change into someone else. I've wanted so hard to be like, okay, by the time I'm 17, by the time I'm 23, I'm gonna be like mature, like the people I idolize. But really, I just find myself, I'm still a goofy little weirdo who, at the same time of like quoting Hemingway, I can also just say the word that's goated for real.
That is me. That is me too.
I know
Okay.
that's you, so that's why you need to be on this podcast,
Okay,
and we need to
but
figure
you
out.
are mature though. That's what I think you're not really seeing yourself. I think you're just someone, I think people like us, lone wolf is a better term, but it's not. But the funny thing is I love like I feel like I never had like when I was a kid like a best friend where I was
Same,
like
same.
did everything with, but like I feel like with you, like I feel like we would have been just like besties when we were kids. You
No,
know what I
dude,
mean?
if we
Like
were in like a school together, it'd be crazy adventures 24/7.
and we were the same age. Let's put that out there.
No, no, of course, of course. If you weren't like 3 centuries older than me.
Shut up. If I am 3 century, I fucking look good for I'm a vampire.
You know a Shakespeare quote that I think about love a lot? Um,
Okay,
God, I
what's the
love
quote?
Shakespeare. It goes, Romeo says that love from love goes like schoolboys to their books, but love from love, like schoolboys with heavy looks. And what he's saying there that lives in my head is he's saying that like love, if it's meant to be, it'll come to you like a schoolboy like opening like a fucking book and he'll choose to read it. But if it's not meant to be, if you're chasing someone or someone's chasing you, or it's just you're just fucking lonely and you're impatient and you're just looking for something, it's like a schoolboy reading only the required books like Lord of the Flies. They don't want to be reading Lord of the Flies. They want to be reading Julius Caesar, the greatest book of all time. And I don't know, that's really changed my life because I spend so much time with idealized versions of other people who like I'm like quote unquote like in love with, and everything in my brain's like, you love this person. But what I love about them is this idea of them, because that's not love. Love isn't something where you're chasing someone or having to convince them to love you or changing yourself so that you can be loved by someone. Love is when you exist and that someone else's existence is like, whoa, everything that you don't like about yourself is kind of a vibe for me. Um,
No,
I
but
made
some
us
people
toxic.
don't. People don't. I don't think so because I mean, for me, so much for me is I see people for as they are and I see flaws or imperfections, but I don't find them in need of change. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
don't I think that I find those things beautiful and it doesn't mean people don't need to grow or can grow where they want to grow, but I mean, it's like a person to me is like that
yeah.
person you're like that I love you and it's
With
not
all their complexities.
yeah and it's not oh I love you because of all these attributes or not because of it's like the person because you know it's the person and I don't feel like a lot of people see love that way. It's more of
Yeah.
like someone fulfilling something for them. And this is what I realized earlier this year when I wasn't being kind to myself. I think people deserve kindness. And I realized that the things I was saying to myself were so mean that
Aw.
I wouldn't say them to anybody, not even like my worst enemy. The amount of negativity that I was giving to myself. And I was like, well, I'm a person. And if I'm saying it to me, then I am a mean person because I'm fucking saying it to a person, which is me. And I was like, and I don't want to be that person, even to me. And that helped me let go of that and finally be like, well, I'm not going to then. I'm going to be a friend to myself like I am to everybody else. And I'm going to be kinder to myself and say nicer things to myself as I do with other people and in helpful ways. So, like, if there's things that I need to grow, I'm not cruel about it. You know, I'm like, okay, I made a mistake and I want to learn from that. And I want to do better next time. And I'm not as hard on myself. So, it's not like, I'm not open to growth, but it's like you're kinder to yourself in that process because you realize that that's life, you know, like we all make mistakes and sometimes they're faux pas that you don't need to improve, you know, like sometimes there are things that are just cute and you make and you're like, oh, that was cute. Like I'm clumsy or whatever. But other things that you genuinely want to improve on, you can, but you don't have to be mean about it. You know what I mean? You don't have to be mean with yourself about it. And that's sad to me that you feel like you don't like yourself because I think you're a really fun person to be around.
Aw.
And I hate that whatever that other voice is in there is being mean to you.
Well, I want to talk about that other voice. Actually, I want to ask about that because, like, what do you think it means that we have to like almost train ourselves to talk to ourselves? Like that we have this one voice in our heads saying one thing, and then we have this other overlapping voice checking that other voice and being that first voice and being like, "Hey, bro, what the hell?" And then this third voice being like, okay, let's analyze how we are rude to ourselves and work on that. What is all this? What is the function of the brain that makes all this happen? And why is it multiple voices? Is it just one voice? Who are we in our heads? And what is actually our personality outside of our voices? Is the first voice we hear, the one being rude to ourselves, who we truly are? And then it's the training that we put ourselves through by society or conditioning that makes these other voices? Or is our real self those other voices? Or what are we? Who's our real self? Answer all these questions now, one by the other,
I will
or
in
you
one
go
word.
to
And
jail.
I think I have an answer. And it feels weird that I'm like, because this is a very complex thing. And to be like, oh, you really know the answer, Sarah. But I actually think I have
I
something
think
and
you
it's
do
based
too.
on science. So creativity. I read a lot. I read a lot when I was a kid. You read a lot. You read a lot. So I was always curious about creativity because that's the one thing that I always was like, ugh, like I love creativity. That's the one thing where it's like you get to like there's no rules and it's just about like creating things. You know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
there's no right way to do it. You can just it doesn't matter what it is. And I remember reading a book and it was by Sir Kenneth something. I forgot his last name. So he has like a PhD and his whole thing was about how schools kill creativity in children. So most children, most humans, majority, like everyone, when you're a kid, you're very, very creative. And that's needed for innovation, not just arts, but in sciences and everything. And as you go through school, that's like it's like shoved out of you or trained out of you or punished out of you, whatever it is. It's basically when you go through the school system kind of does that, which he argues is really bad for human society because the one thing that makes us human is our innovation and our creativity. And then I heard somewhere that creativity is actually the one trait, this was recently, that I guess in selecting leaders, or I don't know, companies selecting people that will perform really well in their company, was choosing someone who was very creative, where they don't have that negative, where you can be pure, you have that creativity, you're a very creative person. And apparently when they did tests on it, so many adults, there was a very small percentage that were creative. But when they tested kids, they all passed the test or whatever that you would give
Wow.
for that you would want in a company that would basically say that you're going to have a lot of whatever it is, like positive growth or whatever it is, because you have these people that are very creative in your company that are basically growing it, innovation. And so how this goes to the negative voice, I actually was thinking about it because there were some people in my life when I was growing up who were really negative. And I think society as a whole is very much about putting people down, being very critical. And the one thing that they say in order to be creative is you have to be able to just have fun, you have to play, and it's not about rules, and it's just about creating. And so I think those negative voices that we have even on ourselves, I don't even think it comes from ourselves. I think it's from society, people around us. Generally, that is told, it's taught out of us and it's scolded out of us that we're constantly. So those voices I think we hear from outside of us that have just been, society pushes so much that we just then, it's this they, right? And I think once that, once, and I have done a good job of being able to now not care about that, and not, because I used to write all the time about that they and what do they think and what do they think, and being able to just
Me too. Yeah.
separate yourself from that. It's so freeing. If you go, maybe I'll write something really bad. Let me write the worst thing ever then, but let me write it and let me decide let me do it. Like the only thing, creativity is just playing. Let me play. They don't know. No one knows. Like when people go like, you can't do that because that's never been done, or you can't, let me try. Let me show it. Let's see. You don't fucking know. No one can tell the future. No one can tell the fucking future. So if you listen to someone who's like, you can't do that, or you did this, it's like, how do you fucking know? Are you God? Are you like, how do you know? Let me try. Let me try. Let me see. Let's see. Can I? And if I can, then you're going to start looking at the world differently too, because you don't know everything. And I always say, how people like want to attend a school that some famous person went to and be like, oh, I went to the school and this great person went to it. Well, why don't you be the first person at your school that makes everybody want
Yes.
to go to that school? Okay. Why does it have to always be your following? Oh, well, someone went here. Why? There's no barriers to that. There always is a first to everything. And why can't you be the one? And it's exploration though, right? Because think about it. We're all floating on this rock and we're all going to fucking die. Does it really matter? The whole point of anything, whatever it's arts, sciences, whatever, it's just us humans trying to exist together in some way. We're trying to say something, we're trying to save someone, but all it really has to do is us interacting. It doesn't have to be this hierarchy of like, oh, we're just all going to fucking die. We're all gonna fucking die. And I want to live. I don't want to fucking just be scared about, oh, if someone thinks I want to live. Let me live. Don't you want to live, Eden? Sorry, your face right now.
I want to live so badly. Tell me more, please. You're cooking.
That's what I think is so exciting, because life can be creative. You can say every single person is different and every single person is unique, and you're never going to exist again. And you don't have to try and fit in to, whatever social barriers there are. And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, be competitive and you can be replaced and all this stuff. If you are you, right? If you're uniquely you and you're so fully you that you're trying to be the best you, and that's in your career, that's in your life, that's in everything, there's no way for you to be replaced, because they can't replace you, because you're so you, there's no one else to replace you. So if you're filling kind of a role and you're trying to be the best in the role, you can be replaced. But if you're so unique that what you bring to the table is so much the complexity of you and you're fully living that, it's so hard to replace you, because there is no other you.
So how do you find you? If there's like, I loved that like statistic you were talking about where it's like so many adults just don't have that creativity. Why are some people like, why are there so weirdos out there? Like, is it that some people are just like harder for our society to condition? Some people just naturally like flow against the river, or is it there's something inherent in a certain type of person that forces them to not, no matter how hard they try, be aligned with society? And where does that spark come from within someone? Where does our personalities come from?
That's true. I was actually talking to my mom about that because she was saying how like all of us, because there's four of us, I have three sisters, how like ever since we were born, we were all very different, you know.
Mm.
So I think that there are things that like obviously like temperaments and traits that people have. And I think for me, I was always so different and it was just hard. Like there was no way for me not to be me. And
No, me
anytime
too. Yeah.
yeah, and any time that I tried, I just felt so miserable that like I still
Yes.
couldn't. So I would just feel like, and it's so difficult. And I think that that's not the same. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't think that's the same for everybody because some people feel comfortable, or that's where they feel comfortable is fitting
For
in.
some people, society was built for them.
Yeah, but I think that the people who can't and they can only be themselves, I think it's that those people maybe innately have some leadership qualities. And I think that those people can bring out in other people that individuality. So that who they are. And I think that, for example, for me, I so much love looking at people. And when I interact with them, I realize that if I am myself and I'm comfortable in it and there's weirdness or wherever, and people see that, and then they don't feel judged for
They're
how
free
they
to
are,
be who they really are around you.
then they
And
can
it,
discover it. And that's a
the
thing where it's
Addams
like,
family.
yeah. So I think that if you're someone who can't help it, that it's your responsibility to let other people feel safe in that, and then they'll feel okay with doing it too. Because they're like, oh, well, Eden's okay with doing that. And look at how cool Eden is. I can be myself too. And I think that that's beautiful. And I think that that's the hallmark of like a beautiful society where people are because I had a friend who was like, well, the fitting in thing, that's the why society was able to grow. You know what I mean? Because we have to have that, that thing. And then the thing that I say is, how do you know that we did not survive as a society in spite of that, not because
Ooh,
of that?
I think a healthy society is kept alive by like one weirdo who comes around and makes society question itself and grow from there.
Because that's innovation. We would be
That's
stuck in the
it. That's
Stone Age
innovation that
still.
excites, baby.
Yeah, that's innovation. I mean, every single thing that we've done in humanity that's improving, that's always it's innovation, it's change.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, like don't like change," change is human. And as much as sometimes people don't like change, humans actually thrive in change. That's how we exist. That's the thing that makes us different where we can look at the world and be like, "Oh, we can't fly, so let's build fucking planes then."
Yeah, there
Right?
needs to be an outsider who rocks the boat so hard with their existence that they show other people it's possible.
And it is possible, right?
It's always possible. But
It's
then what do we do about being lonely? Because, dude, sometimes I'm like, I'll conform to whatever you guys need if you just like let me, but it feels like I've never understood how to read the book of society where it's like I like it feels like I'm cursed to be the weirdo when I wanted to
oh.
I'm like I'll do anything if you guys let me be like you, but I can't.
You feel that
Like,
way? You feel cursed to be you? I feel
yeah,
like that
well,
might be an age thing too. Like you're very young. And I feel like
is there hope in age?
I don't know because I don't even know if it was age. It was almost like the pandemic kind of did it for me too, where it was just like I
Mm.
was so alone in the dark, so many different things happening, but especially the idea of like the whole world shutting down that now I'm just like every day I'm like I'm just happy to be alive and I'm happy to just be able to like take a walk or to just like smile at someone or say hi to someone, to be able to
Wow.
breathe without, having my face covered, to be able just to feel the sun on my skin. Like I feel so just happy in that where like even if I had nothing positive happening in my life, which it is, but even if I didn't, that I just am like, well, I'm alive. You know what I mean? And so that has given me so much peace in being myself because I'm just like, I'm alive. And I really think every human really, like, at their core, you are yourself, right? Even if you're not
Yeah,
expressing it fully to the world, you still are at your core a human. And I think humans at our core, we want to be seen for who we are.
I feel like maybe this is like a sad thought. And tell me I'm wrong if you disagree. I hope you do. I feel like a lot of a person, who they are is based on what they felt was lacking when they were younger. And a lot of people's issues is being unexamined or unfulfilled in that thing later in life. And
What do you mean by, like, what's an example of that?
like a child who wants attention, who didn't get it when they were younger, always craving it when they're older. Or someone who was like who grew up as like I always wanted the most expensive things, but we couldn't have it. And now I'm wealthier and will hoard my wealth and never share it with another person.
It's almost like I love reading, and it's the same reason why I love people, where it's like every person is a story, and they can be, even the terrible ones. I don't like to use the words terrible, but they can be interesting. You know what I mean? So there's never a lack of interesting anywhere, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
what's a good story without like an antagonist, you know?
Yeah, and those have their own, stories too. One of my friends told me a story of, well, he was having an issue with someone. Sometimes the shell of a person, or the way that they're like, there's something underneath why they're that way. And sometimes we just like give someone a little space and understanding. We ask them questions, we can get a little deeper, and we find out, oh, that person's not an asshole. Like, they're just feeling, they just need someone to listen and to actually care about
Yeah.
them. And then you'll discover like so many interesting things about that person, and they're not just, no, sometimes that may not be the case. You know what I mean?
But I think you're
But
right that because at our core, we're all the same in the sense that all we want is like love, understanding, like shelter and food occasionally. And
mhm.
like the ways,
Occasionally, food
occasionally,
occasionally.
you're a vampire. And like the ways we go about that, acquiring that love, sometimes hurts someone and maybe we didn't mean it to, or maybe we did and we regret it.
Mhm. And do you know
Like
what
I've
I
been,
regret?
what do you regret?
I
Coming on this
regret
podcast?
no, this actually, I hope it's making me feel a lot better. Not that I'm
Bro, it's
using
making
food
me
for that.
feel a lot better.
I regret, well, not regret. Well, maybe. I don't know. I think that I want you to be able to feel like so comfortable in yourself because I think you're so cool. And I
What the
genuinely
heck?
think like the fact that you think you're weird to me is hilarious because I think you're just genuine. I think you're such, like, I genuinely think that you're a kind-hearted person that looks, that is very rare quality to look at the world. And like, you, I feel like, have so much going on in your mind, right? And you're constantly thinking, right? You're constantly experiencing and thinking. But I feel, what are you doing?
I'm going to scream, so I'm trying to cover my mouth, but I can't grab. But my mic is being held up by two pillows right now, so I can't.
Oh
I
my
can't.
God. But I feel like you genuinely are such an open, and you're so thoughtful. Like, the reason why you're so interested in, philosophy and writing is because you're so interested in just like understanding the world, yourself, other people. And that is a strength, you know? And the fact that you think it's a weird thing, just because you care about things that it doesn't feel like other people care about, I think at their core, a lot of people do care about it, but a lot of people don't are afraid to share it, and they also don't know how, you know what I mean? And so the fact that you are brave enough, or whether or not it's by choice or not choice, but it's still bravery that you're able to do that, that's an amazing quality. You know what I mean? And the days when you feel weird, you should just be like, what is weird? Like, what is weird? Like, different? Or like, what is weird to you when you say you feel weird? What is that?
Oh my God, what is weird?
Like to you, because words are personal. Like when you say
Yeah.
weird, what is that in your head when you're like, I'm weird? What is that happening in your mind that's like,
When for me, what's happening in my mind is I'm like, well, I look at my life and I'm like, well, I've never fit into like a group of people before. I've never really had like a best friend. Um, and I've never really, when I'm in like a group, a social setting with people, I find that I don't know how to just chit chat. The first thing I want to know is I'm like, what makes you happy and why? And I'm like, that's odd. Or I want to be like, why do you think the stars are the way they are? And that's like odd. But like I don't know how to talk about like a television show. Um, and I think that's weird. Or the things I do know how to talk about are interests that I wait a minute. You can't you can't flip this on me. This
what?
wait a
What do
minute.
you mean?
Wait a minute. This
What
is
do you mean? It's
wait
a
a fucking
conversation.
wait a fucking Sarah Brandenburg. The format of the podcast is that I ask people that and then wait a fucking I'll answer this question. But I want to know, this is the first time I've ever been Uno reverse card on the podcast. And I think I have to thank you so much because this is a new experience. Um, and the things I do find interest in are like
Oh wait, you
I'm
muted
like
it again. Oh
I
wait,
did. That was
okay.
my bad. I'm like no, I don't really I don't know a lot about Chapel Rowan, but I know a lot about the intricacies of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
I don't
Or
know
like
either of those references.
that's awesome. I think that's awesome. And I feel like I've always been like, if I haven't understood a reference, I've always been so interested to learn everything about it. But I've never been asked like, except by you actually,
What?
about like, which is a long time to not be asked about something like when I'm like, oh wait, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like a Beyblade reference. And they're like, tell me more about what Beyblade is and why you like that. So that's that's why I would consider myself weird is because I've had interests that are outside of the norm, and then for some reason that I don't understand, my way of existing in the world hasn't led to the types of friendships I want to have, where it seems so easy for other people.
Okay, well just remember you're 23. I this year
But I'm
have
so old.
you're not I mean you're an old soul, but like so am I.
But I've never been 23 before. And can I tell you something crazy? I'm
Mhm.
about to be 24 in like 4 months.
Oh,
That's
4 months? When's your birthday?
February 1st.
What are you? What is your
I'm
sign?
an Aquarius, baby.
Oh, I connect with
You're a
Aquariuses.
Libra, right?
Yeah.
See, that's my favorite Beyblade.
Wait,
All,
what?
all the Beyblades in the wait, I'm gonna share my screen with you for a second. In Beyblade Metal Fusion, the greatest cartoon TV show based on a toy line ever. Um, all the Beyblades are named after star signs, and the coolest one is this one called Libra, because the one for
Yes. Can you move back to California?
I'll be moving back in like April, I think. But
Please,
so
Lord.
please,
Please, please, please, please.
our adventures will be legendary.
Oh my God. When you move back here, we're gonna hang
Dude,
out all the
oh,
time.
every day. Besides, we have birthday adventures to make up for. So,
Yes.
is the secret to life to not just it's not just about knowing or finding out who you are and loving who you are, but being I don't know if the word's confident enough or brave enough to let other people see that and tell them about it in a passionate way? Is that what I've been missing? Have I just been ashamed of myself for too long?
Maybe, but I also think it's about like you're a writer, right? You love observing and you love like exploring life and the world and people and writing, like even if it's fiction, like you're pulling from somewhere, right? It's like from life. You're a character too, and everyone else is as well, right? And
True.
you're living your life, which is a story itself. And that's exciting. And no one likes, think about the best characters that people like following. it's the ones where you get to, it's the quirky, it's the interesting, it's the different, because that's people at their core. That's when someone's being themselves. You know what I mean? That's the interesting one. So if you were just kind of fitting in and not being yourself, you're not really going to have this full story, because it's going to be very, you're not really actually embodying yourself, but you get to experience your story. You get to live it. And when there's instances where you feel maybe judged or something, well, be your friend and be like, oh, well, that person, they're judgy. You know, they're judgy. Like they're like, if
Oh my
anyone's
God.
watching that story, everyone's gonna be like, that person's a that person's not cool, right? And like, you're a very kind person. Like, genuinely, you're a kind person. And if there's people being like doing stuff to you or not wanting to be your friend or whatever it is, or whatever is kicking you out of things because you don't have a badge when you didn't need a badge, like that
Thank you.
person's the villain of that story. You know what I mean? And also, sometimes it's interesting to kind of like flip the perspective and be like, imagining it from their perspective and be like, oh, what happened? What happened to that person today that made them want to do that? Like, who stripped them
Yeah.
of something? You know, who stripped him of something today? You know, maybe, who knows? Maybe who knows? Maybe his ex-wife, took her, took something that of his that
Took the
I don't
kids, took the goddamn kids, and now all he has is Super Smash Brothers.
because they even say that the reason why road rage is an issue is sometimes for people, it's the one time where they feel like they're in control of their lives. So they're like, I'm in control of this car and of
Wow.
things. And then they like flip everybody off and they're an asshole because it's the only time that they actually feel that they have any power is behind the wheel, because they're everything else in their life is like, so whenever there's people that are road raging, I always think, oh, I feel sorry for your life.
Yeah,
Because
like what's going on for that guy?
yeah, this is his time to be in control, the time when he's on the road.
Because we're all struggling with being alive. It's hard on everyone. A Smash Brothers quote is, it's not easier for me, it's not easier for you. It's hard for everyone out here. No matter what advantages you have, it's hard for everyone out here.
That's true.
Oh my
Especially
God.
hard for you this entire
Dude,
what
what the hell has been happening these last only like 3 barely months?
I know. Like what happened before? Didn't wasn't shit happening? So much shit was happening for you. It feels like every single time I'm checking in with you, you're like, this happened. And I'm like, what the
And
fuck?
I don't want to, I don't like, I feel bad whenever I tell someone. I've grabbed my mic now,
Why?
we're getting personal, because I don't want to be like one of those friends. Because whenever you tell someone that something bad happened to you, your friend's natural reaction, because they're really good friends, is, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then they just feel bad for you. And so then you have to be like, nah, it's chill though. But sometimes it's not chill. And I know it's okay to tell them it's not chill, but after, when it feels like literally every week, I'm like, sorry, I missed your text. I got kicked out of my home. Or sorry, I missed your text. I got in a car crash. Or sorry, I missed your text. I was hospitalized. Or sorry, I missed your text. And then you're just like, well, is this just who I am? Like, I don't want to be this kind of person to someone where it's like I'm always checking in, be like, hey, yeah, a new weird random tragedy happened to me, which is weird. It goes back to what you're saying about being kind to yourself. Because if someone was like that to me, I would do everything I could to support them. But when I don't want to do the same for someone else, because I have this fear of being supported, equalizing, becoming like a burden or being irritating to someone.
I relate to that too.
I bet you
We
do,
are
my dear
so
friend.
similar. Like when you say that, I'm like, I feel that because I feel that so much where I like don't want to, and I feel like that's somewhat where some of my independence comes from,
Yeah,
is
for me
like
too.
it's like that thing of like not wanting to, maybe even at its core, it's not wanting to rely on someone.
Yeah,
Maybe
because
deeply it's where
maybe
I
we learned when we were little we couldn't I mean, we didn't have a friend we could rely on. And I don't know about your
yeah.
home life, but I didn't have a parent I could rely on. So I was just like, well, it's just me out here. I'm go Look, but what you were saying that I think was so cool as we hard cut to this moment in the podcast, because Sarah said something terrible and not me. Um, I'm
Hey,
cutting
hey,
that out.
hey. Love how you're
Is
making a note right now to make
yeah,
sure.
I mean, don't worry, I'm unwrapping this so that the audio is unusable.
Oh, what is
Dude, I have
that?
a Danish.
That is so unfair.
It's
I
so good.
I just had these mini tates.
Oh, I fucking love those.
That,
Um,
that looks so good. That looks like a I don't know how to
it's
it looks like
so
a pillow.
healing.
It literally looks like a pillow from these
It
things.
tastes like a pillow and looks like heaven. Um,
So jealous. That's huge.
dude, it's even bigger. This is a this is out of context, weird.
Oh my God.
We used to
Oh
be
my God.
smart like 10 minutes ago. What the hell were we saying?
Whenever I'm on like work calls and I'm on like a work call, it'll be like whenever I laugh, it goes like reducing noise. So I'm like, what is happening right now to the
That's fucked
because my
up.
laugh is too fucking loud. So I'm like, sorry.
Your
Hopefully
laugh
it's
is beautiful and makes me, you have one of those laughs that make me feel like revived when I hear them. Like I'm like, oh my God,
you.
there's still joy in this world.
Okay, Eden, the thing about you is you should think it's so cool. You get to be with you all the time. And you're
Bro,
fun to be around. You're
that's
fucking
crazy.
fun to be around. And you get to always fucking be around yourself. That's fun. Like you know how many people don't get to be around you and it fucking sucks. And the thing that you said, like you have all these weird interests, that actually makes you a really great conversationalist. Because if you know a variety of different things, like imagine this, you know the Brandenburg Gate, okay? You
Yeah.
know a whole lot of shit. You know Ambervert. You know, I mean, all it's like random shit that a lot of people know. Well, should know, I guess. I don't know, but you know so many different things that makes you a really good conversationalist, and then that allows you to connect to a lot of different people because you know a lot of different things. You're interested in a lot of different things, so you're able to kind of, that shouldn't make you feel weird. That's like a superpower because you're able to, communicate about a whole slew of things and not really have some, not ever be stumped in that way because you can connect to people in a lot of different ways.
Where do you think like our interests in different things like come from then? Like,
What do you mean?
so like I guess this goes back to my other question where it's like, why are we the way we are? Why are people different, do you think? Like, what makes us different? Is it the way we were raised, or is it something inherent in us from before we were born?
I think it's both.
Oh, I like that. I agree.
But I think it is. I mean, I think that there are like ways in which like I don't believe in the blank slate where it's like everyone comes out and they're formed. Like I don't believe in that. I
Yeah.
think it's both. And there's like evidence to show that it's both. There was this interesting this is kind of like a long story to answer your question, but I feel like
I'm
it
so
might.
ready because this long story shall end the podcast.
Okay, yeah, it's midnight now. This idea is that so everyone isn't predisposed to be a psychopath, right? There's a genetic component to it. But if you are and you have an upbringing that isn't really good or things happen to you, then it can make it really bad or worse, right? But if you do have those same predispositions or the genetic component and you are raised in a certain way, that then you're not, that doesn't mean you're doomed, right? So it is a nurture nature kind of thing, right? Where it's like you do have, there is a genetic component, but then there's also the other component of like the way in which you've experienced the world and how it's affected you. And so even if so I mean, I actually really liked the story because it was this idea like even if you are genetically predisposed to something, that doesn't mean you're doomed, right? Like
Yeah.
that there's like it doesn't mean that you're doomed, and it's this mixture of, you know, nurture and nature and that whole complexity of like genetics and the world around you. So
I
I mean,
see why you say that people's eyes light up when you speak because that was amazing. But Sarah, thank you for joining the podcast because I was not feeling good before we called. And
same.
I knew that talking to you would make me feel better, and I do.
You do. I feel better talking to
What the
you. And it made
frick?
me miss you. And
I miss you.
thank you for letting me talk to you. I mean, even if you're like, this is fucking shit, I'm not gonna post this. it still was like a really nice time. And it was just my excuse to be able to talk with you, honestly, because I was like, I'm
No,
never gonna be
same.
able to talk to Eden if we don't do this podcast.
No, dude, I look, we live in an age when you're busy all the time trying to survive as an adult in this big, crazy world, it feels like the only way one can convince themselves to actually just take a moment and talk to the people they love is if they can trick their brain to be like, we're doing it for monetary reasons. But really, I just want to talk to you. Like, there's this one episode with my friend Ethan Ponte that will never get posted because it was literally just us talking for 3 hours and catching up. And that sometimes all it needs is that initial excuse to be like, I would like to talk to you because I
Mhm.
want to talk to you and I
Yeah,
miss
I
you.
know. I know you genuinely want to talk. I can
Oh,
tell.
Dory,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone doesn't think I want to talk to them. Though
That's not the issue. People don't think that about you.
I have been hit recently with the Eden, you're kind of a bad friend. And I was like, why? Like, you haven't responded to my text. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then we talked it out and they're like, maybe you're not a bad friend. I just missed you. And I'm like, I think that's the thing for a lot of people is okay, here's the thing. I used to be the best texter in the world. Podcast's going a bit longer, but we're cutting this. I used to be such a texter, and I go through these waves where it's like I will basically like become attached to someone who I text every day, and then eventually like they're the person I'm always texting. And then something happens. So it falls apart. And then I'm like, well, I don't have a person to text anymore. So then I ignore all other texts. And this reoccurs every so often. And a few months ago, the person I would always text, we don't talk anymore. And so now I'm just like I don't like I just don't have that encouragement to open my text. And I'm always busy. So it's just like,
Almost like you feel like it's
ah,
a curse that like, well, if I start talking to this person, then it's like
it's just
that's
how
what
you
life is.
think of it in many ways. In
Hmm.
Hamlet, they say there is no good or evil, but that thinking makes it so.
Oh, I know that quote.
I love that quote because for me, it's just like the world is literally just your perspective on it. How we decide if something that happened to us is tragic or a tragicomedy is just like our way of viewing it. It goes to what you said, where it's like we're meant to laugh and to live. Like, so like we should just probably do that.
And when you feel like you're living, which is the weirdest thing, when you feel like you're fully living, it's the time when you're least afraid to die, which is wild.
So fucking true.
It's
Because
so wild.
it's that almost, right? It's like when you're not loving the dream, you're like, oh, I can't die because I'm almost there. I haven't gotten something yet. But when
Mhm.
you're actually living, which one you can choose to do every day, you could die any day and you'll be like, I fucking live, dog.
I know. You're like, I fucking breathed the air today and I actually lived. And it's not,
Yeah.
and it's about the journey. That's what life's about, not. And I think when you stop attaching like the need to like, I don't know, be something for other people, that invisible they, like you have to show
Wow.
to people that you are. Once you stop and you let that go, you don't feel like you didn't do something because you're like, I didn't do that yet because you're doing every day what you can. You don't get to decide the accolades or like how people, and then you really don't care. Like everyone is just human. Who cares if you show off to them or not? They're just another human like you. Why do
They're
you
just
gotta?
like you, they're just another aspect of you.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say they're just another asshole like you.
They're just in but they so in Cars, the greatest movie of all time, Lightning McQueen ends it by saying, this is my Owen Wilson impression. This grumpy old race car just told me once, it's just an empty cup. And he's talking about the piston company. He's talking about like the accolades that come with it. But that's life. It's because at the end of the day, life is just an empty cup. And however we want to fill it is up to us. And whatever meaning we want to put to it is our choice. If we want to fill it with other people's meanings, like what they think a good life is, and we'll try to live that. If this celebrity went to like this university and we think we should go to it too because they went to it, we can do that. But that's just at the end of the day, that's just how we're choosing to fill the cup. And we could make a different decision and we could fill it with whatever meaning we want. And I think based on this, we could talk for 2 days straight and then
Let's
only
try
stop
it.
when we
Not right
lost our voices. So I want to wish you a very fantastic night and a safe flight tomorrow.
Thank you. You too. Well, not the flight part, but say
I'm actually going with you.
fly.
I'm flying in your suitcase with you.
Oh God. Story about that.
That's crazy. Okay.
Okay.
End of podcast.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Eden. Okay. Oh, we can be ourselves now. That was
That's
just all the facade right there.
Yeah, good playing a character.